Yeah, man, this is Brushy One String, the only one string guitarist right in and around the world. See, I am what I am. I am the day I am that I am. Exclusive. Sure.
Sure.
Hey. You know my name is Brushy One String, you know. I've been to San Francisco, that's where I see my friend Pancho.
My friend Pancho.
There's something I got to know, you know. I said, yeah. While we back on South Side of us is where we go. We sing this whole country song like this. Chicken in the corn, on the corn can't grow, mama. Yeah, when chicken in the corn, on the corn can't grow. Yeah, when chicken in the corn, so the corn can't grow, mama. Yeah, when chicken in the corn, so the corn can't grow. Yeah, y'all know where to San Francisco. Yeah, we have my friend and his name was Pancho. Yeah, you say one string, there's something you got to know. Cotton saddles and the rices, where we go, we sing this chicken in the corn, on the corn can grow, mama. Hey, when chicken in the corn, so the corn can grow. Hey, when chicken in the corn, on the corn can grow, mama. Hey, when chicken in the corn, so the corn can grow. Hey, now need to bread, don't need to both. I can rap before I really when I pose for. For the music nice, so play them twice, for the bros will scream and don't like bass. My name is Yoshi, I'm a king of swing. So rap your music and let you sing. No, it doesn't really matter what people wanna say. I rap my music, not on there. Rap my music, not on there. Yeah.
This is my favorite guy.
So the corn can grow, mama. Hey, when chicken in the corn, so the corn can grow. Now, chicken in the corn, so the corn can grow, mama. Hey, when chicken in the corn, so the corn can grow. Yeah.
Check out the views. 29 million. This is a great song, guys. Brushy One String, Chicken in the Corn. I encourage you to look it up. Guy has more talent with one guitar string than I do in my entire hand, my entire body. So, welcome, Dynasty Warriors, to the Week 6 recap. Still broken after Week 5, but, you know, willing to bring a little bit more energy into this week's discussion. So, full transparency, don't really remember what I talked about last week. Didn't review the video. But we'll jump in and we'll give you some good rundowns. We're going to start with, which was not necessarily the biggest surprise. I think I may have tagged this as the game of the week. I don't really recall. Randy versus Jake. This was, Randy, I think it was 23 straight wins, man. Just absolute... just unheard of, in fantasy sports to have that many straight wins. Stretching over 3 seasons. Really impressive work. But Randy did fall this week to Jake. Really the big thing is, Christian McCaffrey didn't do Christian McCaffrey things. He only put up 17 points. Which you say, oh man, I would love if my running back put up 17 points. But that's neither here nor there. Christian McCaffrey, 17 points is a disappointment. But Randy's flex position, Chris Thompson only put up 2 points, which was a backbreaker. Brandon Cooks failed to do anything of significance at 3.2 points. Michael Thomas didn't do much either. Patrick Mahomes had an okay day, but fell below projections in a just a tough loss to Houston. They've lost 2 straight now. It's just interesting to see that with Kansas City, but better days are ahead for Randy. He's still number 1 in the league. His bench didn't really have a whole lot to write home about except for Kirk Cousins, who would have led his team in all scoring with 33 points. Jake has what's being deemed, I guess, as the MVP favorite in Russell Wilson, who put up 28 points. I just don't see it. I don't think Russell Wilson's that great. Devontae Freeman finally showed up, and James Conner finally showed up, both of them putting up 23, almost 24 points respectively. He didn't need the help from Amari Cooper or Jarvis Landry in this one. Calvin Ridley had 10 points, and he got 16 out of Phillip Rivers. So big showing for Jake as he improves to 2-4. Randy falls to 5-1. Doesn't really fall. He's still leading the league. Big thing here is I'd be interested to find out what the stats are on the number of people who benched Stephon Diggs. I'm a fellow Stephon Diggs owner. Jake also had him on the bench, 42.5 points, 3 touchdowns, like 100-something odd yards. Feed that man the ball. That's what we were expecting when we drafted him in fairly high rounds. But he produced. I don't know that it's replicable, but unfortunately he was on the bench, and Jake didn't miss him. So final score in this one, 121.9 to 98.3. Jake over Randy, handing Randy his first loss since 2017. Moving along, we will dive into... We're going to dive into probably what we'll deem this week's game of the week. Was a really closely fought battle between Eric and Andy. Eric came up just short over Andy. We'll go through the stats on this one and be able to feed you some information. Really, the difference maker in this one was Kenny Golladay. Andy went into Monday night needing a big game. Kenny Golladay, even though I don't think he got into the end zone, did not get into the end zone, but did get 121 yards, which was good for, with the bonus, 14.1 points to be the difference maker here. Gardner Minshew, 4.6 points. The man, the myth, the legend, loses in New Orleans. David Johnson put up 22 points. Got 21 out of the return of Tyreek Hill. Really happy to see him back. Deshaun Watson did big things against Kansas City. And the Panthers defense stepped up big against Tampa Bay in London. So on Eric's side of the ball, Matt Ryan, 32 points. Mark Ingram, 13. A dud from Melvin Gordon. He was really, I think, hoping for more out of that. Tevin Coleman and Chris Godwin both had decent games. We'll talk about Mike Evans when we get to my team. He actually had a pretty good game, but he's still trash. So come get him, take him off my hands. And Eric finally got Baker Mayfield to show up something about that in Seattle with 19.5 points. Unfortunately, in this one, Eric's consistency among his team members didn't equate to a win, as he fell to Andy 134.8 to 125.5, and it's always tough when the number 2 and the number 4 team in scoring go up against each other. Eric had a better showing, would have been able to beat 6 of the teams this week. Unfortunately, it comes out in the wash, right? He had one last week where you got to win, and this week's the same deal. So, unfortunate loss there. Eric still is in second place in the Moops. Andy is also in second place in the Moors. So let me jump in here and talk about, looks like we have Steve and Brian on. So I'm going to jump on and talk about this matchup. Brian, I appreciate you sticking around if you're still on. I don't know if you are or not. You're having a rough go, man. You're having a rough go. Jared Goff just didn't do anything of importance at all. 1.1 points. I bet you're missing Leonard Fournette at this point, because I'm certainly not missing Jared Goff. But you did get some production out of Phillip Lindsay, and the only other players to score it's always tough when your kicker is your second leading scorer on your team. I mean, and that's only by 0.5 points. The Redskins defense put up 12 against Miami, which is actually probably somewhat of a disappointment against that garbage team, although they did get their first win. Nothing really else on your team to write home about. Duke Johnson did put up 11.4, and Jamal Williams sitting on your bench in his return put up 21.6. Could have had a much bigger day, but did the mercy sit down on Monday night before running into the end zone, but wouldn't have helped you out much. For Steve, really a high performance from across the board. Nick Chubb, 25 points leading the way. We had, 16 from Jameis Winston, and a couple of 12 spots from Adam Thielen, OBJ, and Jimmy Garoppolo. And the Steelers defense coming up big against the Chargers, man. The upset of the week, just carrying it. Reminds me of my one of my favorite, and it's actually I think it's the 9 or 10 year anniversary of the, maybe it's even more, 12-year anniversary of the Denny Green meltdown against the Bears. They are who we thought they were. One of the best defensive performances, 3 touchdowns in a quarter, basically, that game. So that's a number of years ago today. It's the anniversary of that. Sitting on Steve's bench was Robbie Anderson. No way to predict that 96-yard bomb. And then also Austin Hooper, man. Steve is loaded at tight end. I mean, Austin Hooper is the Falcons' offense right now. George Kittle, one of the best in the game, looked to rebound, had a big game himself. So Steve walks away from this one, a score of 127.6 to 77.5 over Brian. Steve is 3-3, and he is third in the Moors, and Brian is dead last. I think he might be the last place in the league at 1-5 in the Moops. Looking into our next matchup, Kyle versus Brett. In this one, Kyle led the way in scoring this week in the league. He had pretty big standout performances from Calamari and the Patriots defense, man, who are just, I almost want to go out and see who is, when we look across the board, I'm going to go do this because I'm just interested to see where the Patriots defense is in scoring. '19 season. Total fantasy points. Let's take a look. We have Russell Wilson and Lamar Jackson both tied, leading the league, leading fantasy, all fantasy scoring, 163.3 points. And the Patriots is 140. There are the only person who's a position player is Christian McCaffrey, who's above that. He is above a number of wide receivers, a number of the Patriots defense. 140 points through 6 weeks of the season. That is just astronomical. So unheard of. They're a team. They're going to be able to help bring you to a championship. So let's see here. We unfortunately, Kyle didn't need much out of Will Dissly, but did lose him for the year. And it's going to be hard to make up. Looks like he will be probably scavenging the waiver wire if he hasn't already for a new tight end to fill in. But in that one, really was led by Kyler Murray and the Patriots defense. Did receive some good, or looks like Terry McLaurin, would have loved to have had him on my roster this week, but Mike Evans didn't disappoint too bad either. So on Brett's side of the football, Aaron Rodgers disappointed. Chris Carson and Ezekiel Elliott finally came through and had some big games. The rest of his team just disappointed. Aaron Jones, 4 points. I think there was a fumble, a huge drop touchdown in that one, wide open. Justin Tucker was the next leading scorer with 13 points. The rest of his team disappointed. So there were a number of, if you look at Brett's bench, it was all buys except for Emmanuel Sanders and Will Fuller. So I think Emmanuel Sanders had 1 catch for 0 yards, and I think he was lost to injury in that one. So final score in this one, Kyle walks away tied for first overall. I think he's probably still a little bit behind in points for, so I think he's technically second. But 151.8 to Brett, who is fifth in the Moors at 2 and 4, put up 100.8. Moving into our last matchup of the week was really just a terribly low-scoring affair. My team continues to disappoint, although somehow managed to beat Mike in this one. Mike started Tariq Cohen. I get it was his honeymoon, so you're going to get a break, but, you didn't even throw Matt Breida in. You sitting on your bench. That doesn't take too long. I know you had some airport time, so no excuse in that one. Could have gotten some help from Jamison Crowder and Matt Breida in this one, but really wouldn't have done much as Joe Flacco put up 5 points, and the only other players to score double digits were Julian Edelman and Tom Brady on Thursday night. So the rest of your team disappointed. Juju Smith-Schuster, without Big Ben in there, man, 0.7 points. It's hard to trust that guy as a starter now. I'm a fellow owner, so I feel you. On my side of the ball, Lamar Jackson led my team with 32.6 points. He accounted for roughly 30% of my scoring this week. Did get 13 out of Teddy Bridgewater, which was actually pretty good of a decent output considering they only put up 13 points. Mike Evans had 11.6 points. I think he did get the yardage bonus, so helped me there. But my running backs again disappointed. Joe Mixon, 3.9 points. Guy's pretty much bound for my bench from now on. I did start Malcolm Brown with Todd Gurley out, but he didn't really do much. And then, Keenan Allen had a second straight week of disappointment at 3.3 points, and Zach Ertz just killing me. He's not doing what we drafted him to do. It's 3.4 points. I think he's touchdown dependent, and he's not getting him too much. I will say that I did switch out my kicker this week, and I actually got a double-digit kicking effort. So Joey Sly was able to help me out in that one. So overall, Alshon Jeffrey's probably going to get plugged into my lineup in some fashion moving forward. The quarterback's pretty thin, but Andy Dalton's sitting on my bench. We were really hopeful that he was going to do something this year, and he decided not to. So let's take a look and see where we stand. This stand right now. Let this load. It's another heavy bye week. Right now we have the Panthers, the Browns, the Steelers, and the Buccaneers. Oh, that's not right. This is 2018. No, it's not. Is it? It's not. It is. It's accurate. Okay. Panthers, Browns, Steelers, Buccaneers, all on bye this week. So be on the lookout for that, I guess. As we look at the overall standings, Randy does still have about a 40-point lead. Andy and I are doing our recaps at the same time, and so Eric just sent a message that he's not happy about that. So I started first, Eric, so you can go give Andy some flack. He's stealing some of my thunder. Where the standings are at right now, the Moors is Randy Andy and Steve leading the way. And then on the Moop side, you have Kyle, Eric, and myself at the top three, closely followed by Jake, who I think will probably make his way into the playoffs. He does have a really good team. He will probably unseat myself, and Eric will probably be able to grab that third spot in our division. So I'm playing for the Toilet Bowl. Not really seeing a ton of competition from Brian or Mike. Most of my competition, I think, comes in the way of Brett, and I think that was a rematch of last year's Toilet Bowl. So we'll see where we land after that. Looking ahead to this week's matchups, excuse me. I face off against Andy. Currently, I'm projected to win this one by roughly 1.2 points. That should be a good matchup. I have a number of players on bye. I'm sure Andy does as well. The next few weeks are going to be really bye heavy. Eric is going to be facing off against Steve. Eric is currently slotted to win this one. Steve looks like he's really hit by a bye. He's only got 6 players in right now. He probably will have to fill in those gaps with the bench. We're going to have the battle of the two worst teams in Brian and Brett. Brett will likely win this one. We will have a matchup between Kyle and Randy. Kyle is currently the heavy favorite. Randy's going to have to fill in his roster and see what he can foot from there. But he's currently projected less than 100 points. Does have a player to fill in at this point as well. And then you have Jake and Mike. I think Mike should be getting Saquon back this week, which could make a huge impact. Mike is actually projected to win this one over Jake. So I'm actually going to tag that as the upset of the week, Mike over Jake. I think the matchup of the week is going to come down to either Randy and Kyle or myself and Andy in this one. So that's where we sit after a number of weeks. Hope you all enjoyed this recap. Again, I really appreciate you tuning in. For those of you who tuned in, I'll upload this to YouTube and give you the opportunity to jump up on that as well. So I appreciate everybody's time, and please feel free to drop some comments. Let me know if this is valuable, if you'd like me to do something different. But good luck on week 7, guys. We're halfway through the season, man. The regular season. So we have, after this week, we'll have 6 weeks left before the playoffs start. So it's time for the final push. I think we know where the teams are starting to shake out. There's some competitiveness in the middle of the pack. I think we've got 2 that have separated themselves as the top and 2 that are kind of sitting down there at the bottom. So we'll see where we end up. But good luck in week 7, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. See ya.